Hello, how's it going? Drew here over at Arcturus Cinema headquarters with a new episode of the Business Origin Story podcast. And with me today, I have a special guest, Marcelle Allen. And please go ahead and take the floor, introduce yourself. Really excited to
Yeah,
have you
yeah.
here.
Thanks, Drew. I'm honored to be here. Yeah, my name is Marcelle Allen. I've been in business for about 16 years now, helping people navigate the internet to win and hopefully make some money. So it's been fun, and I love talking to the creatives. And you're just doing such great work in the world that I'm really honored to be here.
Hey, thank you. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. And so, tell everyone about the name of your company and what is it that your company
Yeah, so
does.
Dreamosity is a word mash of dreams plus curiosity plus generosity. And I started the company because I wanted to help people build their dreams. And I knew that curiosity was 16 years ago an undersung value that people have. And getting curious helps people have better conversations, learn faster, be better in sales. And then it was also about generosity. How can we leverage technology for good? Right? How can we use advertising for good? What about a great infographic? What about, storyboarding to beautifully tell a story? And so there's so many ways that we can leverage technology for good and help people make their dreams come true in business and or even at like a community level or an organization level. What are the dreams of the community or even the industry? And so I geek out. It's fun.
That's really cool. That's really cool to bring all those things together. It's that's a cool thing about when you're making your business is you can find different ways to combine things that you're passionate about and things that people need. Things that are a problem that people are having, and find creative ways to bring it together. So that's cool that you're able to do that. So how long have you been with your
Yeah, so
company?
16 years now. It's a social media training and advertising company. That's how I explain it to people normally. And I'm the author of a book called Financial Joy, Know the Data Behind Your Dreams. And I will not tell you what stocks to buy, but I want people to understand the data of the marketing, the advertising, the SEO, the video views. And did I actually get them to say yes, right? Did I get this sales conversation to a yes, which is a whole different data point than, did I get 1,000 views or not? And so I really help people navigate not just the digital assets, but the decisions they're helping other people make.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, and that's good that you're that guide. Where you're not telling them how to do it, but you're just like there is kind of a guide showing you, hey, this is what has worked with a lot of people, and let me just show you. I just think that's a great way to go about helping people. I'm also really curious. So you've been with this business 16 years, and you mentioned that you had a career in corporate as well. So what was it like transitioning from the corporate world into your business? Tell us
It,
about
it was a
that.
little bumpy. I remember my dad saying, why don't you just go get a real job? And I was like, I was working for a large aerospace company, and all the women in leadership were just literally depressed or divorced. And I was like, I do not want to work 20 years to hate my life. Like, that sounds horrible. And so I got out early in the sense, I know some people stay at that company for forever, like they're lifers. And I was like, I was a creative butterfly, and they put this butterfly in a cubicle, and I wanted out. I wanted to travel. I wanted to see the world. I wanted to do really cool things. I had a great college experience, and this idea of just letting your world shrink to like nothing as a paper pusher. And I was doing project management, was kind of interesting, but I did not like to telling a bunch of engineers to hurry up because that was essentially my job, and I did not like to be the task. Like I joke with my clients now. I'm like, yeah, I cheer and I steer. So I love that word guide you said, because I do guide, but I say I cheer and steer because there's a lot of fear when it comes to performing on camera or a podcast. And so I do a lot of encouragement, which I wouldn't have gotten to do at the corporate job.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a completely different beast. I personally have worked in corporate jobs insofar as like in food service, and before I started my business, just to go a little bit into that. And so yeah, it's just a different environment and a different structure. And then even I've worked with some video production companies that are really really corporate, and it's just really interesting because they kind of let you be creative but not all the time. And And then if you do have a really cool creative idea, like I'm sure you did, it's really hard to go up the chain of command and then
Yeah,
present
there was
it and
very
all
little
that,
creativity in
so
that space. So it's fun that I get to work with people like you now and other people around the world. So
that's awesome. And so I'm curious, what was the moment, the catalyst, if you will? You said that you saw other women in your corporate job. You were just not happy. They weren't enjoying life. So was that the catalyst for you to start your business, or was it something else?
I think there was a lot of different things. I think I only lasted there about 9 months, which I knew like statistically, give them 3 years, like give it a longer shot. And I was like, I don't want to give them 3 years of my life. Like in my mind, I just, my parents were both either in sales or entrepreneurs. And so I saw what was possible. And there's a lot of moving pieces to that story, but I essentially was like, I don't want to be here and I don't have to be here, So now, was it a graceful exit? I don't know. Like, not necessarily. And starting my business was not immediate. It really started out as a blog. Like, so I bought the domain name Dreamosity.com about 16 years ago. And then for a couple of years, had, some part-time jobs. And it wasn't just like, hey, boom, I'm at, full revenue. It didn't start that
Right.
fast. But I got to travel. I got to help with a lot of people. I got to learn, and so many of my invoices were just created kind of from my imagination and just listening, what does the client want?
Mm,
So some of my first projects were uploading high quality photos from a photographer to her blog because she didn't know how. And my degree was in English and business too, so it made sense to do something more than, I don't know, project management. But
what was the biggest challenge in the beginning with starting your business?
yeah, so 16 years ago, the internet was still very infant like, and a lot of people were hesitant and nervous and uncertain to get on. And I did have a couple fast wins, which was great, like easy clients, projects where it was, no brainer. They were happy. They were so, thankful and grateful for the service I had provided. And then a couple years in, it's like, there was more skepticism and more challenges. And what I found is different clients, some ideal clients, what I call is a remarkable leader. So they're leading some sort of community, whether it's a Facebook group or a meetup or, political organization or whatever. There's some sort of, leadership involved. And there's a lot of different personalities in that space, from large egos to tiny egos that are, super hesitant. There's a range of creativity, there's a range of budget. And so for me, trying to find the campaign that made sense, because I've always customized every invoice, every proposal. Rarely do I sell the same thing to a same person, because I'm usually offering a 12-month to 24-month proposal, and so it's not just like a one-time experience, although some events have been short-term like that, but trying to find what do they need, and then navigating that relationship 3 months in when they're like, oh, well, I really need this, or I really want that, or can we do this? And so that's been just a constant, you know, professional improv, if you will, of navigating different challenges. And some of those weren't even always technical or creative. They were just the client had a major life event, or, crazy divorce, or a kid gets painfully sick, and so a lot of it wasn't even the technical creative, like, did I provide a great product? It was helping them find the resources they need from our social networks, right? So it's not always just about the marketing campaign and the digital assets, but supporting the human side of this it's been great for me, like, to grow, but it was not something I expected, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a life coach, but I feel like I'm constantly helping these folks find the right team of support, and it's never just me most of the time. So it's been interesting.
That's really really cool, Marcel, and it really reminds me that when it comes to like digital marketing and helping people in that similar space, that a lot of it is just figuring out what their pain is, what is it, or what are their challenges, and that's why even with my business, it's like I sell similar things, I have similar packages, but I always
Mhm.
customize it for each client because they have different challenges that they're facing. So I gotta customize what I'm doing so that way they can get the most out of it. And that's really cool that you're able to do that over a long period of time. And it's not just, like you're doing one project, you're working with them and developing and helping them develop their brand and all that jazz, over a long period of time.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool.
What was it like getting your first a client or your first customer with your business? What was that like?
It was pretty exciting. I think one of my the larger client was kind of an accident, like literally from a car accident. And it was a chiropractor. And he's like, "Oh, you understand this Facebook stuff, right? Like, can you help me with it?" And I was like, "Sure." And he's like, "How much would it cost for you to take over my Facebook page?" And I spit out a number. He says, "You're hired." And I got a check that day. And I was like a whiplash patient, but it was like, so I've enjoyed working with chiropractors over the years because they're a very unique type of professional that, like the whiplash campaign is very different than like just get great posture, but he was wonderful to work with. So that was pretty cool because that was my first like 12 month type of proposal. It wasn't just, let me edit some stuff for you, but so I find being out in the real world helps you get clients better than hiding behind my camera.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. And then was that your ideal way to get new clients is just a mix of online and networking?
Yeah, so I would say my combination is definitely a mix of in-person events, paid advertising, and then a referral networking group that I have. There's actually one community right now that I get 40 to 70% of my business from, which is pretty amazing. And it's a combination of offline
Wow.
and online. So I basically built up a sales team of about 15 people. So they're sending me referrals because they know, trust, and like me. So I really built that team up over the years, which has been really nice. I feel like the campaigns I've done for my clients have been different than the campaigns I've done for myself. So it's not always, you have experience in one thing, but you're like I've had clients before with $1,000 ad budgets, which I don't necessarily have most months. And so to be able to have a major result for them is really exciting and fun. So it builds up a case study and the storytelling ability, but not every client has that on day one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's really cool that you're able to build your network like that, and have those referrals coming in and then being able to get those case studies. That's super powerful for being able to grow your business. So that's awesome. That's awesome to hear. And I wanted to ask you kind of on that, having built this awesome network over the years and then being able to grow your business like you have in the past 16 years, what are some pivotal like lessons, things that you have learned in your journey that you just like didn't realize going into it that have been just like really pivotal for you?
Yeah, so I think like looking at sphere of influence, like managing digital assets is different than managing a sphere of influence. And realizing that has been really in the last couple of years. I had a client who was running for a political campaign, and we were trying to, reach 40,000 to 50,000 voters to get them to say yes. But he was very comfortable with his, say, sphere of influence of maybe 500 to 1,000 people. And I was like, there's Facebook groups over here with, 8,000 people, and they don't know who the heck you are, right? So I created data art as a tool to help people think critically about their authority. Because in some rooms, you might walk in and it's like, cheers, boom, everybody knows your name. In some rooms, you walk in, you're like, I'm a nobody, or I'm unknown yet. And that's where the ego part of our business is some people do have a lot of influence in some rooms. In other spaces, it's like, I've never heard of that person. And so navigating that and then trying to find a solution for it, because obviously I can't just be like, well, it didn't work over here. I'm like, how do I help other people think critically about that sphere of influence? And so I tend to tell people, I want us to be networking for you in 5 to 25 spaces throughout the month. And that usually people are like, what? That's too much. Some people say, well, have to have 3 referral sources. But to me, 5 to 25, because if I get a great video and I just put it on their business page, it's going to sit there with 7 views. If I go network it around throughout the month and I ask a couple people to share it, and I've got all the keywords working for SEO, and you've got, there's multiple ways you can see what's working. And so to me, it's getting that voice in the right places. And on day one, I never asked people, how big is your reach? It wasn't wasn't a data point. And now it's like some people have a list of 20,000. Some people are like, I have no list. Some people are like, I've got this Facebook group with, 1,400 women, or they're like, I got this thing over here, so like really spatially understanding the size of their network has become really important versus just getting the great content out there.
We're very much on the same page in that, because I tell people all the time with my own content and to my clients that it's not so much about the video or whatever piece of content you're making. You really need to know, where ICP is hanging out, what are the best networks to show it at, what are the best platforms for it. You really got to have that kind of dialed in before you just blast your video everywhere. And that's cool that you're able to use the data art, because it's a great way to communicate the value that they bring in a way. Because some businesses, I go to a bunch of networking events and meet all kinds of business owners on LinkedIn. And some people's businesses, the way they describe it, like if they're just do a BNI elevator pitch, people may not get it right away because they're just so used to explaining it in that way. But if you have a tool like a video, or in your case, a data art, then people are like, oh, I see what you mean now. Like, I totally get it. Like you were saying, they become that like person in the room that stands out. They may not have this big following, but since you have an asset that you can use now when it comes to networking, on or offline, now people get it.
Yeah.
So that's really cool
Yeah.
that you're able to do that.
It's pretty neat, although it's brought on a new challenge, because like my data art of my sphere of influence probably won't make sense to somebody else. Like when it's their data though, then it's like, oh, but if I'm using my data, they're like, it's just a bunch of bubbles. It's not really significant unless they've actually done that critical thinking work. And that's what I found with so many internet gurus now and all these like marketing experts and business coaches. It's like there's a point when people need to trust their own information because they know their business better than anybody. And sure, like an expert's consulting advice is helpful, but if someone's telling you to do something and you're like, but I've already got 1,400 over here, like why would you like? People need to be able to understand what's best for them. And I think that's where data art, when people go through that process, it's going to help them be better marketers, essentially.
And it helps explain their value proposition. And I totally hear you too. It's just like with data art or any sort of digital asset that you're going to use for marketing, it's you always kind of run the risk of like people, even if you do it really well and you've done all the data before you've created it, there'll still be some people who may not understand it or get it. That's why they say, marketing's a 9-letter word for test, is you always got to be testing out
Yeah,
these
absolutely.
things and figuring out what's working and what's not working. My next question for you is, what keeps you motivated and inspired every day with your business?
It's a good question. It depends. Different campaigns excite me in different ways. Like some are really creative challenges and some are just like, wow, this is so freaking cool, I can't wait to tell everybody about it. And some of them are like, it's just really cool, how do I make it like sexy and fun? And so every project has a different like emotional side and an intellectual side that makes me think differently. Every project has a different ICA, or ideal client avatar, that we're trying to talk to. Talking to a 42-year-old male with a book that isn't selling is very different than talking to teenage girls or grandmas or business people. So like it's never this exact same. Like sure, there's some processes and questions that can be similar, but it's never the same day for me, which I really enjoy that. And I think that's where I took a test years ago about how our brains filter, and I have a high desire for variety. Like I like change. I always like a different restaurant. I'm always trying different things. I like meeting new people. Whereas like my mom, she was in the same career for 30 years. That would have driven me nuts. Like same type of thing. And I'm like, we were different. Although she taught me a ton about sales and was absolutely pivotal in teaching me the difference between selling and, meeting people essentially. But yeah, the variety and just, the industry keeps changing. Now we've got shorts and reels, and those weren't here 5 years ago. And like I think the first 3 years I had a YouTube page, I didn't even publish anything, Drew. like, like I had an account and I didn't do anything. And now it's like I've got content moving all the time. And I used to be that girl that was like, I'm scared to do anything, so like everybody's evolving around us, our collaborators, our clients, the needs of the marketplace. It's never the same as it was last week. There's always someone smarter coming along to do it better. Like there's always a lot of activity and so much interesting things happening, and to me it's like it's a really exciting time to be
Yeah,
alive.
no, it really is. Yeah, it's always changing, and especially when it comes to what you're doing at the data art, and then my area with video marketing. It's always changing, and same with the audience, and what the people are really wanting to consume is always changing, and of course the attention spans. So it's yeah, I know. So it's like one of those things where it's that's what's also really exciting about it, like you said, is like learning the new trends and figuring out what is the new thing that is resonating with people, and how can you incorporate, like, for example, like short form content. How can you incorporate that into your marketing strategy, and things like that, so it's just really interesting, and it's important too, for businesses, because since things are evolving at such a rapid rate, if you don't keep up, it really can, you can hit a plateau with your business, and that's not a fun place to be.
Yep, yep. What worked 5 years ago is not the same. I mean, there are similar practices that work, but the technology is absolutely moving so quickly.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's changing a lot. Oh, I have a great question for you. So my next question for you is, what advice would you give to someone starting out, not necessarily in your field, but like as an entrepreneur such as yourself?
So if they were in the digital space, I would really encourage people to look at the digital assets that we create and sell and offer and edit and work with are different than the decisions we're helping people make. And so to keep in mind, what is the decision I want to help them make, and having some sort of feedback process to be like, did they make the decision I wanted? Versus did they just get inspired or just get educated, or did they just learn 100 things about XYZ, but they didn't actually make that decision? And that's where, for me, the leadership piece is like, wait, did you see the video? Did you do the thing? And if not, why not, right? Because I think a lot of content still misses the mark, and we've got to be able to be a little bit detective and not take it personally if the video didn't actually get the result we wanted, but to keep working to find out how to actually help these people make a decision and move forward, what matters most to them, or to that, the process or the tactic. Are they actually achieving the result, or are they just getting more information? Because usually more information doesn't actually change the behavior. So like it's thinking, what is the behavior change you're helping people make, as opposed to just selling a thing. And those are kind of different things to really think about for entrepreneurs in general.
Yeah, no, that's huge. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a huge thing that people need to be aware of, especially when it comes to just marketing your business. You can learn all these different things, these new trends and things like that. But if you aren't implementing it and figuring out what is working with you, like I say all the time in my own content that I've made, it's like, if you're going to start by putting out your own content, which I recommend everyone do, because that's how you learn what's resonating with people and what isn't, and to do like A/B tests with your own content before you invest in like a marketing campaign. So I always recommend that, because you need to. I feel like people need to understand that.
Well, and can I tell a story to make the
Yes,
point
yes,
like
go
even
for it.
even funnier? So years ago, I used to always sell like a $250 90-minute discovery session where I walk people through, 25 digital assets that we could make together in the next year across this big matrix of, from 0 to a million or whatever. And I did this great presentation, and I thought I was doing a really great job, just being like, here's all the things you need to know. And I asked the client at the end of the session, I said, what was your favorite part? What did you really enjoy learning? He's like, I now know how to screenshot on my phone. Because I didn't, and he wasn't an author, he wasn't my super ideal client, but he wanted to understand how to get the photos to his Instagram. Like, the skill was so much more basic than what I was actually trying to be all like, big picture strategy, and here's how we make a campaign. And then you realize he really
Yeah.
wanted to know how to screenshot something. He didn't know, and so things like that, they're kind of humbling, but it's also like, you have to keep relearning your audience, because we may think that they're up here and maybe they're here and maybe they're actually here, and so the behavior, I think, knowing what is the behavior I want to help people make, as opposed to just, here's a bunch of cool stuff we did. And they're both
Yes.
important, right? We
Yeah.
need both. We need the cool stuff. We need the video. We need the ad campaign. We need, the various pieces. But it's like, and when I wrote Financial Joy, it was because my client's like, okay, Marcelle, we're doing all this video, we're getting lots of views, but what does my net profit mean? Like, she didn't know. And so she was a,
Mm.
70-ish-year-old lady, widow, who no one taught her this in business school. Nobody really walked her through, out of all these hundreds and hundreds of decisions we make in a month, that net profit is just a reflection. It's like, it's like a score in a football game, right? It just tells us, are we doing good? Did we hit the goal? Are we totally far off from the goal? But so many people, when they
Yeah.
don't look at that report until like the fourth quarter, it'd be like a Seahawks or a Super Bowl champion not knowing their score until 2 minutes till the end of the game. And all of a sudden, like, if you don't know if you're
Ooh.
behind or not, and then like you're 21 points behind, like, it's too late at that point, like, I think statistically. But most people, they don't even pay attention to that. And so, I never thought
Mhm.
I would write a book called Financial Joy, but it was kind of fun because the bookkeepers and the accountants, they're not the educators, right? They're the bean counters. They're going to help you make sure it's accurate. They're going to help you maybe with tax strategy, but they're
Yeah.
not going to tell you, hey, you need to go speed up your revenue plan. You're way off, or you're like way over. They don't, that's not their job. So it's been
Yeah.
interesting. I've gone way more than social media for clients, for sure.
That you brought up a really good point. It's like it's always changing, and the thing that I've noticed too is when you're putting out your own content, which I recommend everyone do, that it's you got to find a system that works best for you. It's good to learn all these things and absorb and learn how and different marketing strategies and techniques and things. But at the end of the day, I feel like people would really benefit from learning what is the thing that you can really stick with. And then the other component is to always be looking at your numbers, like you said with the Super Bowl analogy, which is brilliant. Because what I see a lot of people do, even some of my clients who are like after I've delivered the videos, they'll post their own like vlogs and things like that, and but they don't kind of tweak them. They're kind of the same style. But then I see other business owners do that too, where they just kind of post the same type of stuff, but you look at the engagement, like the comments and the views, and they're not where they should be. It's valuable information. It's just the way it's being delivered. And so that's why I feel like those numbers are so important, because if you like I look at my YouTube analytics all the time now that I'm putting out more content, and then I noticed that, oh, my watch time is
Yeah.
on this one video is low, and I was like, well, what can I do? And then sometimes I'll ask AI, what do you recommend I do? And then I was like, ooh, I'll just make a stronger hook. I'll make a really good hook that's like funny, engaging humor and things
You,
like that, and that hopefully will encourage people to watch past like 30 seconds, right? So I just feel like the data really helps inform how to get the most
you
out
want to
of
know a really
your
good script for that
what?
too? You want to know a good
Ooh,
script for
yeah.
that? like my referral team. So I always tell people, if you're going to watch my video and you're like, oh, wow, that's 15 minutes. I don't have it. I said, don't start it. Watch a 3-minute one, watch a 2-minute one. If you've got 15 minutes, watch it to the end, please. It helps, the score or whatever. And so if you ask people, hey, did you watch it? Did you watch it to the end? Would you watch it to the end? Because, and that's where the average consumer may not know that there's value in us getting watch time. But for those of us who know, I'm like, I don't want to start watching your podcast if I can't watch the whole thing. So like literally just asking people, will you watch it till the end if you start it? Even if you walk away, like watch it to
Yes.
the end, because that helps grow your channel. It helps grow, I don't even know the right thing to say exactly, but it helps it for you not to get only a 10% watch time rate.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you're
So
starting a new
try that.
channel.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it. And
What inspired the channel, the origin story for this one?
oh, you said what inspired this podcast? Oh, I just it was my idea for just adding more value to the community because I always like to give people different, like I make all kinds of content helping people to make better content for their brand, and I just figured this would be a great way to get
Mhm.
people all the great businesses that I meet here at networking events or online, give them a way to get them some great content that they can use. And then, of course, it's mutually beneficial because I can use it for my own YouTube channel and all
Yeah,
that.
awesome.
So,
Oh, can I give one more tip for the newer business owner then? So, like when I
yes,
say know the
please.
data behind your dreams with financial joy, like for me, that was knowing I had to maybe pitch $30,000 in a month to make seven. Nobody told me that in the first 5 or 10
Wow.
years, Drew. Like I had to figure that out by like trial and error and getting distracted and not making enough sales and not actually asking for the close. But like I had to pitch so much more than what I was able to close at the time. And my close rates, gone up and down, and it changes as I make different offers. But like, don't be afraid of rejection. Like I'll sometimes tell a client, go get 20 no's. I don't care if they're ideal or not. Go get 20 no's, because you learn from people in that process of getting no's or not yet, or it's not my budget. Okay, well, what is your budget? Maybe you take some down from 800 to 200. All right, it's still cash flow, right? So I've always been interested in cash flow versus profitability, because sometimes cash flow is what pays the bills. You don't need to have huge profits to
Yeah.
pay rent, right? Like I want to make sure you can get the money in the door, and then you can, tweak and improve. But yeah, I usually tell people that, and they're like, wow, I
Hmm.
didn't know you had to pitch that much. I'm like, you might only have to pitch 20,000 to make 7,000. You might have to pitch 50,000 to make 20,000. But that's a lot of no, right? So data art, to me, I'm making rejection pretty. I'm making it fun. I'm making it easier to be like, ooh, that didn't work. Like, okay,
Yeah.
let's try again. So it's kind of fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that's a great attitude to have,
Yes,
especially
that's
as an
right.
entrepreneur. You just have to not take it personal and just know that you're one no away from a yes. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And then I just my last question, or two, my second to last question for you is, what is the future with Dreamosity? What is the future for your business look like?
It's a great question. So I feel called to lead a visual movement, and I've been getting more clear on that lately. In 2024, I started a magazine publication to make data art and looking at like how do you visualize momentum or sphere of influence or net profit or these big kind of abstract phrases. How do we take them and make them visually attractive and visually interesting? So I've been working on that, which has been really cool, and I'm getting pretty good feedback. And then but then I'm like, let's do a one-to-one if you want to talk. So I'm getting a lot of data art demos from people who are like, wait, can you break it down for me? Because again, if it's my data, to you it's gonna be like, but if I do it with your data, then you're like, oh, that's cool. So I've been having fun with that. And not that data art is the answer, because I think there's a lot of digital assets that need to get created that have nothing to do with data art. But if people don't know what to do with those assets, like, come
Mm,
on, come play in the bigger sandbox. Like, there's so many more people we could be helping if we really understood, that your neighbor 12,000 doors away might be needing that video you just did. Right? Like, it's pretty crazy to
yeah.
think about, wow, how do I get it in front of more people now that you've created it? So more visuals, more really useful graphics. And part of it is I feel called to help the thought leader be a better communicator to the graphics team or the visual team. And I want to help the
Mm,
creatives be better at steering the thought leaders versus doing what I call monkey work. Oh, I'll just do what you say. It's like, what if that client is asking for something really stupid though? Like we need to advise and consult and educate on why that's a terrible idea,
Yes.
and or can we also try it this way? So it's a little bit of that communication skills, but visualizing it in a way where people can again make decisions faster.
Yeah. I love it. That's a beautiful goal. That's a beautiful goal. And best of luck to the magazine and Dreamosity and I'm excited to see where you're headed. And then my final question to you is what's the best way for people to get in touch with you and to learn more about what you do?
Yeah, so visit dreamosity.com. I would say spend a couple minutes, poke through a couple websites or a couple pages. You'll see all the things there. You can also, on the front page, book a 15-minute consult. So if you want me to give you a data art demo, I would be happy to do that. You want to just talk shop, or you've got a client project or an ad campaign where you're like, I don't know what to do, Marcelle, can I get a consult? Like, I'm always happy to help. The cool thing about data art is it's fairly quickly to diagnose a challenge and then to have a solution. So you don't need a whole hour necessarily to solve that immediate problem. But yeah, visit dreamosity.com and check it out.
I love it. I love it. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Marcel.
You're
Do you have
welcome.
any final words before we wrap on out of here?
You can't be remarkable just once. You have to stay remarkable.
Ooh, that's a great quote. That's a great quote. Well, thank you again, Marcel, for hopping on this wonderful podcast here. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Be sure to check out Marcel, check out Dreamosity. She has an awesome website. I recommend everyone check it out and learn more about what she does. And thank you again for tuning in. And make sure to subscribe so that way you're notified of the next episode of the podcast. We're going to be doing more of these, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And until next time, stay
I
classy.
like that. Stay classy. Thanks, Drew.
Yeah.